Yo, what's up? It's your boy Currency 365. Hope you guys are doing well. Legends never die, they stay in our hearts. If you want to support us, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also you can come down here and hit the join button under the video or in our channel section. And you can also join our Patreon, patreon.com/currency365. And we also have Cash App and also PayPal for support if you want to sow some seeds. Peace out. God bless. Enjoy the video and keep the movement going. Legends. Bye.
Hello, and welcome to another Bad Idea AI X Spaces. I'm your host. My name is Pulse Digital, or Shane. Here, I'm in the Bad Idea hosting spot today. I'm going to be your interviewer today. We're going to be talking with Dr. Christopher Johnson, Mr. Lightspeed, who is working on the bot at Bad Idea AI. So if you're here this early, you're either listening to the recording, which we appreciate that. That's great. Or you're here live because you used the reminder button, or you were just very diligent about getting here. And we appreciate that. If you are here on the recording, you've probably got about 5 minutes of setup. If you've ever been to an X Spaces before, there's a bit of setup. We have to get guests in their spots. We have to check for microphones. We have to make sure everything's working for everybody. If you are here live, you're stuck while we do the setup. You can't do anything about it. You got to listen while we go through that setup. If you're in the recording, you can probably skip ahead to at least the 5-minute mark. Generally, I like to give a 5-minute buffer for everyone to arrive. So those are your choices. For those of you that are here in person, there are some things you can do while you're here. You can do things like share the space. That's a button down there in the bottom right. You could comment on the space. That's also a button in the bottom right. You can leave your comments down below. That's a great place to talk about what we're talking about or ask your questions so that we can read along. And if you're unable to speak for some reason, maybe where you are or for other reasons, you can still participate by commenting and leaving your questions and concerns down below. We will be doing some AMA stuff, so you could potentially request a speaker spot. But in the beginning, we're not really going to be doing a lot of questions from the audience. We've just got a discussion lined up. I've kind of talked to Mr. Lightspeed about questions that we've heard that we want to address. So what we're talking about today is AI agents. How do AI agents work? And more specifically, for Bad Idea AI, what are we doing with AI agents, we as a community, and how are we using AI agents in the guidance and building of the project? So that's our plan today. Now I'll get requests from some speakers to come up. I'm sure I need to maybe invite Chris to come up. We'll get him up here to speak, get everybody's microphone checked out, and we're going to dive in. There were questions. The reason that we're doing this space, and I'll cover all this for everybody that's here this early. There were just questions. There's always questions about why we use agents. What are all the posts about agents talking about? What's that discussion even about? Because not everybody is as close to what we're doing as maybe we are. So we want to reinforce for people what the process of agent prompting looks like, and not just what's being done at Bad Idea, but how can you use this? What can you do with AI prompting in order to maybe make a more effective use of your time when you're using AI? Maybe you can be more effective in your prompts, more productive in what you're doing through using the idea of agent prompting. So give us a couple more minutes. We'll get more guests in here. We had a lot of people click the reminder button, so we're waiting on people to arrive. We'll get them up here, and I'm still waiting on Mr. Lightspeed to either request his speaker spot or accept my invite, unless X Spaces is rugging him for some reason. If that's the case, and if you can hear me, you might need to leave and enter. Again, you might need to even restart your phone depending on how far you're going to have to go to get that thing to let you back in. Also, if you're on some shoddy Wi-Fi or whatever, that might not always work either. So we'll see what it takes to get him up here in a speaker spot. We've still got a couple of minutes until all the people I told to skip ahead will be here anyway. Oh, there we go. Microphone check. Are you over there?
Yep, loud and clear. I was cutting off a little bit, but here now. Thanks.
Excellent, bud. Glad you made it in. We're looking forward to the discussion today. I was telling the fine people about the questions that I had seen in a couple of places that kind of prompted the idea that we are going to be talking about this at all today. Why are we using agents? What does that mean? And I know this is true in a lot of situations. When you work on something every day, it gets easy for you to forget what you didn't know as a beginner. So what we're doing is we're going to have Mr. Lightspeed go over a discussion with me about agents, agent prompting, and specifically the agents at Bad Idea. So give or take 1 or 2 more minutes here, what we're going to do is we're going to roll into the idea that I am resetting the room. Some of you may have been to spaces that do this. I'm going to pretend like we just restarted the spaces so that the people who skipped ahead, who are listening to the recording, can just jump right in because we told them to skip to the 5-minute mark. So I will reintroduce myself. I will reintroduce the speaker. And then we're going to roll right into a discussion if everybody's cool with that. One more time, you can share the space, bottom right. There's a button for that. You can comment, leave your questions, leave your concerns, bottom right. There's a button down there. And all these things help our algorithm. They all help our reach. So even a comment down there about like, hey, great space or whatever, that's always helpful. And lastly, you can DM people. People often respond more powerfully to DM invites than just scrolling past something. So don't forget you can reach out to people while we're doing the spaces. So without further ado, we're around the 5-minute mark. So if all of you have skipped forward and you're now arriving here, I'd like to introduce our guest. Oh no, we lost Lightspeed. His connection is going to be weird. I know he's traveling right now, so we'll get him back up and then I'll do the room reset again. Let me get him back up here real quick. Approved. I'll plug him back in and then I'll reset everything after I know his microphone is more connected this time. Hello, sir. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So let's roll into that. Hello, and welcome to a Bad Idea AI X Spaces. You probably skipped forward from the recording, or you've been here live waiting the whole time. Either way, we appreciate that. We are bringing you today, as the title mentions, a discussion about how AI agents work, artificial intelligence agents. This is something that Bad Idea uses and something that you could be using in your AI prompts. And we're going to talk to Mr. Lightspeed about that today because he is at Bad Idea, currently heading the bot programming. He is in charge of all of the neurolinguistic language learning and all the stuff that goes on over here with us. So he is very versed on agent prompts, and we hope that when you leave here today, you will know a little bit more about how you could be using agent prompting in your use of AI. So my name is Shane, or I'm Pulse Digital over here. I'm riding the Bad Idea Spaces host spot, and Dr. Christopher Johnson, or Mr. Lightspeed, here is my guest today. And without further ado, I want to say thank you to Chris for being here. I appreciate all my guests that are here listening, but particularly you, Chris, for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Shane. Thanks for having me here and for me to geek out a little bit about AI.
Yeah, man, it's hard to slide into this stuff in other spaces because not everybody wants to go into it, and not everybody is there. They've all got agendas and they want to get speakers up and let everybody rotate, but there's no rotation today, boy. It's just you. So we've got a whole lot of questions that I think I've based a lot of this on the article that you published on CoinMarketCap. I've used that as a jumping off point. It was on Medium. It went to CoinMarketCap. It got a lot of views. It was very popular. And it goes into detail about the use of agents at Bad Idea AI and more into what agent prompting is. So if you're ready, I'm ready to dive right in and take a look at this article. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go, Shane.
Okay, so can you briefly explain to me, just as an overview, let's assume someone here has not been to this spaces and they don't know about Bad Idea. What inspired the creation of Bad Idea AI and what are its objectives?
Well, the main inspiration early on was that we know there are a lot of communities out there that are geo-restricted. They don't have access to artificial intelligence for a variety of reasons, right? It could be political and whatnot. But what everyone seems to have in common is an electronic device like a phone, access to something simple as Discord and Telegram, and write up a little bit of code and they get access to AI that way. Yeah, even if ChatGPT or some of these other sites are blocked, individuals can have access to free AI, which is what we're attempting to do.
And not just the idea that it's free AI, but AI for people who might not have even had access, not just geo restricted, but just technology restricted. Telegram is actually, a pretty easy place. Like you said, Telegram and Discord, when it gets to Discord, are not hard to access. So this is a big deal. Now,
Right.
in order to overcome those geo restrictions and stuff, you're using layers of tech to do this. There are multiple things. You're using APIs from Telegram and all the way to Chat GPT. And for people who don't know what APIs are, could you elaborate a little bit on what these layers are and how you're accomplishing that to create what we would call the Bad Idea AI experience?
Sure, no problem. And it's more than just geo restriction. Obviously, we want to give access to as many people as possible, and we can get into the adoption towards the end. But the biggest problem with GPT uh, is, if someone was to work on it and then look at it from Telegram, is that who is it that's talking to me when they're in a chat group? And that's a problem. How do you personalize it? And if an individual DMs the bot so that it can have what we call persistence. So we solve that persistence layer. So that's the one of the first layers that happens is when someone interacts with it. Our server keeps track of that individual's, it's actually an ID number, so we don't even know who the individual is or the name. But there's a uh, it vectorizes all that information, that history that that person's having with the bot, or a group is having with that bot, because groups also have identifiers. And there's some processing that happens. Bad Idea AI has its own knowledge base of all the projects that want to be included in it. It's something we offer for free. We use it as part of the machine learning, which is the aspect that a lot of people miss, Shane, is that there are efforts that are done to provide machine learning events to train the model so that they get smarter. So it does knowledge checking, and we'll get into the different agents because we have more than one AI agent. If it goes into that, it then goes through natural language processing. We call it NLP in the industry. That's where it gets a sense of, what do you mean? Are you being positive about this? Are you being negative about this? It helps get this context better associated with what's going on with that individual that's communicating with the bot. Makes more sense of it. Tries to connect it with some other things that other individuals may be talking about, because it's a social bot, which is something that has been upgraded since I wrote that paper. Is the bot now actively listens and participates in conversations in a group setting if it finds something interesting enough. That is the After all that is done, you finally take it out to get the actual response done. After all that initial work that is done to support a community, like if there's a token that's launching and they want some smarts added as a payload along with that prompt, it sends the prompt, it sends all that knowledge, it sends all the history as payloads to finally get to a place like ChatGPT or any other model. And that final model is also trained. So we're running on our own unique model that's based on months of chat logs, public group logs of the Shibarium Tech group, the Bad Idea AI group, and other early projects that volunteered to support us to help shape its personality and its wit and charm, and sometimes some snarkiness and sarcasm that you'll see in there. So that's some of the magic you see.
So I'm going to do my best to distill that down from
Yeah.
programmer level speak to what everyone else needs to hear. What he's basically saying is this bot is not just GPT. One of the questions that we get all the time is this just GPT? And the answer is no. That is not what is happening here. There's layers upon layers. It's like a 7-layer bean dip of AI. There's GPT is being used, but there's layers that have been built for every group. Every group has their own information. Every user has access to their own DMs and their own ID number with this thing. So the short version of that is no, it's way more complicated. Now, the APIs that you're using may run through, like you said, at some point it may check in with GPT, but it's packaging all this stuff with its own personality and its own backlogs of knowledge, and that knowledge base is only supposed to grow bigger over time, and it has more of a personality. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. The APIs are really about handing information from one point to the other along the different layers.
All right. See, I mentioned to somebody else that coming to this spaces was about getting a little bit smarter today. So I'm hoping that there's someone in here that's like, wow, I didn't really think of it that way, because some of our holders and community members probably see that question a lot and maybe wouldn't know how to answer that, because they're like, oh, is this just GPT? And it's like, well, I mean, no, it's not. There's so many unique things about what it is using. And that's how a lot of bots work right now, is it's built upon these layers. Now, the layers that we wanted to talk about today, because I saw specific questions. We do a lot of posts on X and posts on social media using the idea, the language, and the images of our agents. what we call our agents, our in this case, our girls. We have 3 girls that we use, and I want you to get into a little bit of what these agents are. First of all, relative for bad idea, and then I want to talk a little bit later about how other people can be using agent prompting. But your article mentions Sarah, Sasha, and Sheba, and I'm wondering if you can give the audience a better understanding of how those agents function and how they collaborate to give a better user experience for the AI users.
Yep, I guess we work through them one at a time. But first we have Sarah, and that one stands for Shibarium Artificial Reasoning and Algorithm Hub. So we threw a little bit of Shibarium in there, obviously, because we are in support of that overall community. And Sarah serves as the frontline communicator, right? Responsible for all those interactions with the users. So I like to say that Sarah's the personality of Bad Idea AI, the ones that's setting the tone and the context of the conversation.
And then the next one is Sasha.
Yeah, so Sasha stands for Shibarium's Algorithmic Support and Heuristic Assistant. This is another AI agent, and the last 2 are really the ones that are doing the grunt work behind the scene, because this is where you leverage more than one AI tool to help another AI tool do its job. And once people figure that out, they go, "Oh man, the things that I could do if I could leverage more than one agent." But Sasha, what this one does is it's the analytical role. So Sasha contributes to refining the AI's understanding of what the user needs. So it's looking at what the user's asking, and it's trying to place it into a better frame. Like, historically, this person's talked about this, this, and this. So let's guide the discussion flow into these topics so that it won't get misunderstood later.
I got while I was listening to that, I had a DM from somebody saying that there was a little bit of sound issues. If everybody in here is having the same experience with sound issues, that would not be good. Can everybody hear what's going on right now? Can everybody hit some emojis in the audience just so I know that everybody is able to hear what's going on? I see some thumbs up and stuff like that. This was a few minutes ago. I was a little late to get the DM, so I just want to check in and make sure everybody can hear us. Chris, you hear me, right?
Yeah, you're loud and clear with me.
All right, and your audio sounds perfectly fine to me. Is everybody else in the audience able to hear this right now? We
I'm
just
seeing lots
talking
of
to each other?
hundreds. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's just on my end. I don't know. It sounds fine for me. All right. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was at least that we're not up here just playing a recording for everybody for later, you know? All right.
Yeah, I hear
Sorry,
you.
we'll pick up. We were talking about Sarah, Sasha, and Sheba, and you had just wrapped up talking about the differences between the 3 of them, and Sheba being the
Yeah, we
learning
got
unit and stuff
Sheba
like that,
as
right? The
well.
memory unit. Right.
Yeah.
So with the agents that you're using, basically these things debate, right? They're able to go back and forth between each other and help guide decision making. Is that why there's differences between them like that?
Yes, each one has a different role and a tone. Like the third one, Sheba, that one's responsible for the knowledge base and enhancing its conversational capability. So it will, if it finds there's a gap in knowledge, um, I can get recommendations to add to the knowledge base that we're not doing so well in answering certain responses. And that one's the slower end of it. That's the growth process. It changes the thresholds of the bots on when they respond. Like, you know what, we're not talking about this so much. We need to make adjustments. And so it's really where all the analytics comes through. And it makes my job a lot easier to tweaking and adjusting the AI algorithms. I use the agents to work together. And you can even bring them up and have them debate for you in a group. It's not often we do that, but if someone was to invoke them, that is possible. So let's say you want to see a debate about a topic, and you want to see 3 different points of views laid out. You could see that, and they're not going to agree. There's times they're not going to agree. They'll come to a consensus because AI is efficient, right? And they'll present the pros and cons. So we have used them to make decisions. And our project, Bad Idea, 'AI, is an example on what exchanges we should list on.
And when you've been using these things, because you're more familiar now with agents since you've been working so deeply hand in hand with them, what about your experience with the idea that you have these agents? Could you tell an average user? There might be some people in here that are getting their feet wet with using our bot and using other bots because we're agnostic. Honestly, I'm just excited that everybody's using AI. How could you explain to someone what using agents can do for them, or how to set up agent prompts? Like what would you type into a prompt box so that you could get an agent debate about a topic? Could you go into a little bit of that?
Yep. What I would do is I would lay out the agenda for the agents, and you got to lay out some context. If you just say, I need to solve a problem and I need a solution, that's just not going to be enough because they get very creative, the agents. And if you don't provide them the framework for basically, you got to set the guardrails, the parameters of the discussion. Otherwise, they hallucinate. And that's a very popular topic in AI is hallucinations. And when you see them going off the rails and you go, where the heck did that come from? You can almost always take it all the way back to the actual prompt itself. And I always start with something like a what your role is. So I'll say you are a blankety blank, and I'll explain what they are and what their role is. In this case, it's already defined in the software, so you don't really have to do the step with these three agents. But if you're just working with a clean slate, you have to define really all the roles. So your prompt ends up being multi-paragraph. In this case, we don't have to. It can just be a lot simpler. But if you're going to work multiple agents, you got to give them each a role, explain what their strengths and focus points are, so that they have a frame of reference, a vector point, and the further apart from each other, the better. For example, Sarah is configured to be a communicator. It's going to focus on how things should be communicated properly to the community, whereas the analyst is going to look at it from a budget point of view and what's this going to cost us, and do we got the user adoption? And the other one's going to say yes, but we got some lessons learned here. The last time we talked about this problem, we got feedback that it didn't work or we needed to do this, so I propose, and then it'll go back and propose something, and the other two will go back and forth. So once you've filled out the roles, then you got to give it context. We're working around a problem and we're not too sure what we should do. So the problem is, and you describe it and give it as much context as you can. And AI has improved to now you can get pretty long context windows. And the next version that comes out, you can even see that you'll be able to put in even more paragraphs in without the AI losing track. Then you just hit
Well, I'm glad,
send and let them debate.
I'm glad you brought back the paragraph word, because I was going to rewind you all the way back, because you mentioned that your prompt could end up being a paragraph long. And this is something that I've had conversations all over the place when we talk about AI. I think that, and I'm making generalizations, so I'm not talking about anybody in particular in the audience. I'm just saying like people in general. They're not willing to take the time to write a paragraph long prompt. And then you just talked about multi-paragraph prompting. So you get what you give is what I'm going to say here. And this is more like me, Shane, and less bad idea, giving you this little bit of a rousing speech. You have got to take the time to write the prompt to get the result you want. You can't just throw something in that prompt box and assume that the tech is going to extrapolate your intentions. It does not work that way. It's not reading your facial language. It's not looking at every eyebrow movement you make. Like, you have got to take the time to write a good prompt before you hit the send button. And that might mean sitting down and, like he said, when we're talking about agent prompting, you're going to have to sit down and define each agent's personality. You are now representing three separate agents. I'm prompting now. You represent now three separate agents. Agent number one is such and such. This is the personality. This is what your skills are. Here's what you're going to debate. Agent two has a more conservative personality, or is a more liberal personality, or is more reckless, or has a higher risk tolerance. Whatever your definition is, you have to individually define first what the agent is and then you give them the problem to debate. So there could be some significant typing that goes into actually putting these prompts together. But frankly, if you want an end result that provides you the ability to, what I think everyone's dream is, to be able to almost copy paste that result as if it were exactly what you were looking for the first time, which is a very difficult skill to be able to craft a prompt and get your result without multi-generations, you really need to write a multi-paragraph prompt. So thank you for bringing that up. I'll get off my little soapbox, but what do you think about that? Do you think the average person probably is missing out because they come in and just, I forget my language, but throw shit at the wall, and they don't understand that they need to take the time to really script those prompts?
Yes, I think there's a lot of waste time without doing solid prompting, because one of the things that you should be doing is giving feedback and calling out mistakes. But if you're not prompting well at the beginning, and you're not giving the task and the format, the tone and the language you want, for example, or in the goal and the purpose, the more stuff that you pick out, the less work you have to do later on to call out mistakes, because AI is still not at human level performance and will make mistakes. And when it hallucinates, it will fool you. You may actually think you got a good response when it was in fact just complete make believe and a hallucination. So you save yourself a lot of work with uh, right up at front, Shane. Like they say, bad data in, will be bad data out.
Yep. Well, that's a good point too, from a coding perspective, just to phrase it like that, because that's almost a cliche within that industry, right? But it proves itself to be true here, because with this AI, you're basically asking the general public to code. I guess, when you're inputting to a machine, whether
Yeah,
it's normal speaking language or ASCII2, you're coding in one way or another, right?
you are in plain language. And as a matter of fact, if you talk in code, it gets even better. Like if you say things like, if this is this and this, then do this. Otherwise, or else, we would like you to consider. And then it has a branches and sequels it can follow in its discussion. So if you even thought like a flow chart and just verbalize that flow chart, that process, it will work its way through that process for you. And, and as a matter of fact, it's gotten so good that on some GPTs you can actually upload the decision tree and let it follow the decision tree for you. So that's another approach that I like to do, is to give them a decision tree and let them work through the whole process.
And that's something that I think a lot of users wouldn't have even known what you were talking about. So that's the deeper
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I mean when I say I'd like to talk to people that use these things more frequently, because you're giving information now that I think a lot of people that are listening might not have even known about. I am still getting messages from people saying that there's a lot of audio problems. Earlier today, about 3 or 4 hours ago, X Spaces was actually completely out for everybody. And I was not panicking, but I was concerned that we might not be able to get into Spaces today. So I'm not exactly shocked to hear that there are people that are having audio problems, but my only defense here would be that I'm not having audio problems, and neither are my guests who are acting as speaker, other than that disconnect, reconnect. So my intention here would be to continue going, and then hope that this is all being logged as a high quality recording that could be revisited later. And I apologize if any of you had carved out the time to be here live. That is unfortunate. But we lay this one squarely at the feet of Elon and X Spaces support. What you can do is you could comment in the bottom right if you're having audio problems, and either tag at support or at X Spaces, either of those accounts. And if you are commenting below my spaces and saying, hey, at support, I'm having audio problems here. And then when you leave the spaces, or the spaces is over, you're often given a prompt for, did you have audio problems? And it's just happy face, sad face. Click sad face. If you have sad face experience, if you had audio problems. So sorry to interrupt, Chris, but I apologize for everybody. If you're having a less than stellar audio experience, it seems to be out of our hands today. I apologize for that.